Hi empaths, welcome back to my channel and back to Journey Through the Tarot. This week we're talking about our week with the Four of Swords and introducing the history, symbolism, and divination of the Five of Swords. And just to sort of recap what we're looking at with the Four, shout out to my friend Sergio, who requested that we kind of review a little bit. So we're looking at retreating as a choice, recouping from battle, withdrawing from battle, healing, renewing, going within to heal, meditation. And this card is a knight in prayer, right? Vigilance, retreat, solitude, hermit's repose, exile, tomb, and coffin. It's about rest, relaxation, recuperation. Reigniting your tired soul by taking some time out. Sometimes the best thing to do is to do nothing. To consciously and purposefully stop, close the door, and put down the book. Sleep. So, interesting, right? And before I forget to mention, this book is inspired by Dirty and Divine, A Transformative Journey Through Tarot, by Alice B. Grist. She spent a day with each card. We're spending a week. And we're getting a lot of our information from one of my tarot teachers, Robert M. Place, his book, The Tarot, History, Symbolism, and Divination. So this week, clearly we're in a different surrounding. I'm in Las Vegas visiting my brother. You might be able to hear his dog barking in the background. His new dog, Rocco, I just met. So I'm on vacation currently, which timed out perfectly with this card. I went back and forth of whether I wanted to move into a new card, and I decided the timing would be right to move into not the six of swords when I'm traveling back. So we're going to spend a week with the five, and then it'll work out really nicely time wise. We're working with the symbolism of the Rider Tarot deck, Waite Smith symbolism. If you need any of those items that you see here, just look in the description, and there will be a link to my Amazon store. So despite being on vacation, I have worked most of the time I've been here. I'm getting adjusted to the time change because I live on the Eastern time, in the Eastern time zone, traveling to Pacific time. So I'm getting up earlier, but it's just because of the time difference. And I'm adjusting to my work schedule still. And I've noticed that I'm really taking to having that structure. And this week it's been pretty much smooth sailing with work. I haven't really had angry customers. I mean, I have, but it's been easier to brush it off. But of course, my astrology chart changes when I shift locations. That's what happens, right, with your chart. And so I have much less Pisces energy on the West Coast. When I'm in Pennsylvania, there's so much Pisces. I just, everything kind of sticks. I'm so sensitive, and I'm sensitive here as well, but it shows up more as maybe irritation or and aggressiveness in some ways. Like I get touchy. So I'm noticing that difference here. Very swords energy, a sharp tongue. And I really am taming that at work so that, being mindful. I also started a new program about health and healing your relationship to food and stuff like that, which it's interesting because I'm in this healing program that I've been talking about with Cindy Dale, and we had our second session right before we left for the airport to come visit my brother, and worked with color, healing colors, and on the scalar waves that we were working with, the previous week, and it was really powerful. I noticed when we got into the healing groups to practice, I was in a group of 4, which is a larger group than the other groups, and so we had less time to kind of work and practice with on each other. And I went last, and I really felt like I needed it so badly because I was going through a really difficult week at work. And it was the three of swords week I was recovering from, right, and getting into this recovery period. And I I was the last one to go because I have a tendency to make sure everyone else has a turn. This week I was considering jumping in and saying, I really need help. I really need a session. Could someone please practice on me? But I didn't really get to. Everyone else sort of jumped in. And so I did go last. But I feel like I got really emotional. I was just saying I'm really recovering from a really hard week at work. And I've cried a lot this week. It's been emotional. I've definitely been very sensitive. And that made everyone really want to help and support me. And so I had really great sessions, even if it was a fraction of the time of everyone else. Everyone was really concentrated on helping me. That was really supportive. And I had a great session. I actually felt it in my system. I felt heat when they were working on me. It was really cool. And then I was able to practice that on clients with the colors and the scalar waves, and it was really cool. I'm still working while I'm on vacation. And and so my first week with the class, what I wanted to focus on was ending sort of the cycle of getting really thin and then gaining the weight back, and then getting really thin and gaining the weight back. And I was just like, I've been noticing this week that I don't have a lot of shame around that as much as I used to. I don't blame myself. I don't hate my body. It's just like it is what it is. I really do work on incorporating a lot of water and healing foods. On vacation, it's harder, and I definitely acknowledge that this is, the way genetically I've kind of inherited this trait of stress showing up on my body and causing me to hold on to weight. And I'm in this new program that's kind of explaining that, talking about it, support, like integrating new information to support the understanding of how to eat to not add more stress to the system, and to take off the charge around certain foods. So you end this sort of starvation and binge cycle that I've been on for a very long time. So, but when I was in the Cindy Dale training the first week, I went in and I got partnered, and it was just 2 of us. So we had a lot of time with each other. I got partnered with somebody who we were talking about what we wanted to work on, and I brought that up. I was like, I'd love to end this cycle of like getting really thin and then blowing up again, and then getting really thin and blowing up again. I'd love to end that cycle. And we were working with the scalar waves, and she was like, oh, you're an empath. And I was like, yeah. And I hadn't even told her my business name. She didn't know anything about me. And I've heard that before, but I really didn't understand fully. But she just said it so confidently that I was like, oh, she knows something I don't. And she had been studying with Cindy Dale for a long time. So I guess that's something Cindy Dale talks about, which is interesting. So I was like, yeah, I'm totally an empath. She's like, yep, that's a prevalent cycle, a prevalent pattern in, the physical being of an empath. So I was like, oh, interesting. I actually never even thought about that. I didn't consider that. And it makes a lot of sense that it's energetic, and because that's the majority of what I'm dealing with. Because it's not really health. The main reason it would affect my health is vitality. And so that's a huge consequence for me to have lower vitality, because I have so much I want to accomplish, so much I want to achieve. And this week in this sort of, it's called Wild Fit. It's on Mind Valley. They have some great classes. I took their Speak to Inspire with Lisa Nichols, which was an excellent class. And then this one, I took the master class, and I just really didn't want to spend the money on it. I wanted to make sure I really could budget that in. And so with this new job, I have extra income coming in, so I was able to, even though the job is creating more stress and more sort of uh, stagnation, right? As it's just, I'm sitting and, kind of stuck in the same place. And so I've noticed that that's affected my weight as well. But I'm very, very careful to sort of stretch and make sure there's movement on my breaks. And I have weights to make sure. But on vacation, I haven't had that. I've sort of just been trying to use neuroplasticity and things like that to keep me going. And I have been using treats to train myself more while I'm here than movement. And movement's really the key for me. So I noticed that that was a funny, like, what is it, like parallel, because my brother's training his new dog Rocco, who is adorable. He's learning all these tricks. I think this is the second month my brother has owned him, and he's just such a sweet dog. And he's they adopted him from Mexico. I guess he came in as a rescue from Mexico, and they spent a lot of money getting a DNA test to see what type of dog he is, what breed, and it came back Mexican street dog. Just really funny. But he's such a good dog. I'm really enjoying having a pet around, and I'll miss him when I leave, and it's been really good to spend time with family, and we've been playing games together. My brother has this game, is it Words Fun or something? It's a really fun game. It reminds me of You Don't Know Jack, which I think we're going to play tonight, which is on your phone as well. But it's creative. It's like coming up with different headlines and subtitles for movies and things. And then you vote on the one that's your favorite, anonymously. And it's really fun. We have a lot of fun. We make each other laugh. So that was really fun. And we're preparing for Thanksgiving. My mother's prep cooking, as is my brother's girlfriend. And I kind of stay out of the kitchen. That's not really my thing. But it's my birthday week as well. So yesterday I got to explore the city a little bit. We went to Chinatown in Las Vegas, and it was fun to kind of drive by the strip and see the casinos, because they're beautiful from the outside. I don't always love going in them, but they're a little chaotic for my taste. But it's a really beautiful city. And yesterday we explored Chinatown a little bit, and that was really fun. We bought some things and went shopping, and I just had a lot of fun hanging out with my brother's girlfriend yesterday, and then playing games with my family. It was really fun, spending time with the dog. So it has felt restful and like a vacation, despite the fact that I'm still working. And this video is a little late because I was trying to consider if I wanted to do it or if I wanted to rest a little longer and really work with this archetype of this card a little more, because this looks peaceful. It looks really nice. I think there's some other things that came up for people in my circle around resting and recouping. I'm trying to think if there were any more themes around that. I noticed it with the dog, who at the beginning of the week was really barking at us, was really hypervigilant and wanting to protect the space and feeling very territorial, but is really adjusting and becoming accustomed to our presence here, and more slowly taking to my father, who is bigger in stature, very tall person, and I think the dog kind of feels threatened at times by that, and so he'll bark and protect the house, protect his territory, and growl and everything, which he did to me the first couple days, but really adjusted quickly. And I say that because it's like the soldier going to battle and then retreating, resting. I know my brother's on vacation currently. He's currently resting, as is his girlfriend, and they're both really hard workers, so it's a time of rest for them as well. And actually, she even mentioned that yesterday, that this time of the social distancing has taught her the pleasure of rest, the pleasure of not being so active, because she had always had like two jobs all the time to make ends meet, and it that this time of COVID and the social distancing has really educated her about how good it can feel to just rest. I definitely felt like it's conditioning me not to go many places too, and even more so than I was. So I feel that too. But I'm starting to feel, especially after we traveled, I'm starting to feel like momentum again of wanting to make things happen, wanting to, get to the gym, and like it's not as pleasurable just working out at home anymore. I feel like I want to get out, I want to explore, while still being cautious and all of that. So I know here in Vegas, there have been a lot more cases of COVID, and they're hitting closer and closer to home, and so that's been trying. But thankfully, none of us have directly been affected. Trying to think if there's anything else. My best friend and I he brings up religion a lot, and he's been just contemplating a lot of what he was taught growing up and how it contradicts a lot of the messages that are in the New Testament. And he's just been really contemplating that and sort of weeding out what he considers misinformation and how it's shaped his self-identity and his self-acceptance and ability to love himself. And he's finding a lot of freedom in doing that. And I think it's creating less of a charge around some of those concepts and teachings that I do think are erroneous as well, many of them. And I think that's bringing him peace. He's feeling calm. He's feeling peaceful around that. Less anger, less feeling the need to go to battle around it. So I think that that's another, he's retreating and finding his own form of prayer and meditation and connection to a higher power. And I think that's what it's all about anyway, is finding that connection. And knowing how to get back there, right? And that's the thing with this Wild Fit program too. It's about the light bulb moment of making food neutral, and making peace with. They don't talk about parts therapy, but in this class, I've only had one day with it so far, but they don't talk about parts therapy specifically, but they are talking about the food angel and the food devil that are kind of arguing inside of you. And I realize that's parts therapy that they're talking about. And it made me recall this woman who uses IFS, internal family systems, to heal binge eating disorder. And so it started to come together for me. I was like, yeah, there's a part of you that, has this fear of missing out, who wants to explore and have pleasure, and it has all these associations with food that are not about nutrition, right? And then There's another part that knows that's going to make you feel ill. That's going to make you feel sluggish and tired. It's going to give you, an acidic reaction and response in the body. You're not going to look as good this week. And we do it anyway, right? That part of us gives in a lot. And I would rather have this neutrality. So that's about making peace with those parts making peace internally and harmonizing and understanding that there's a similar intent. This one wants to explore and have adventure through food. This one wants to explore and have adventure through living. So they both want to have the same things. They're finding different ways to manage and cope with that and achieve that goal. But we can work together. Sometimes that can be food. It doesn't always have to be, right? If you want to feel togetherness, you don't always have to have a giant turkey dinner, right? That's part of the struggle with an Italian heritage, Italian family, and my father's side as well. That's how we celebrate, right? That's how we sit around the dinner table and enjoy food together. And food has such a huge purpose. But when you're so sluggish because of that, and you feel fatigued and not well, you do a lot less exploring. And I think that this time of social distancing has definitely taken its toll on many people because of that. I'm starting to feel the energy wanting to shift for me personally in that area. So, and it's also interesting, I don't know if you can hear the dog. He must be protecting us from something. The way the hands are in prayer position is similar. That's how it would look if we were doing a visual squash in hypnosis, right? If we were doing a hypnosis session of parts, right? This part wants you to eat food, to explore and have adventure and fun. And this part wants you to have adventure and fun by exploring the world, by having adventures, by learning something new, right? They both want that dopamine rush, but they want to meet it in different ways. But look, they have similar intent. And what will it take for them to come together, right? And you're in this trance and your hands are coming together seemingly on their own until they meet. And that's that visual squash. And so that's how the hands are in the card, which is interesting. So it's fun to see these images show up, right, of the techniques that I work with, and that gives the card a deeper meaning. That's part of this journey that we want to explore here. And we're looking at when we were exploring the history and symbolism, we saw this what's it called? Stained glass windows. And this person is praying, and we assume it's to probably Mother Mary or a female saint. And this theme of like guides came in this week. I know I was working with one client and it came in that she was being guided specifically by an ascended master, but I was like, if that doesn't ring for you, if you don't feel called to work with that person, no, it's just an archetype, right? That doesn't mean you don't have ancestors and you don't have other light beings or loved ones working with you, or guides. So you can call it whatever you call them, whatever you want. You can refer to them as whatever you want. Just know there are people working with you. There are entities in spirit form, basically working with you. And so she grappled a little bit during session about if that conflicted with her beliefs and her ancestry and the religion she was brought up in. And I said, it's not required for you to change religions to work with me or to do this work. If working with an ascended master doesn't feel right for you, don't do it. I'm just naming what I'm perceiving here. And it was interesting because the ascended master that came in session that was sort of working with her, And as I said, it's not necessarily that ascended master. It's just an archetype we're working with, right? So much like we're doing the work with the cards right now. And when I researched this ascended master, it came up that he was sometimes known as a saint, but the main point was he worked with I am presence. And I was like, in the Old Testament, God calls out his name as I am that I am, right? And then she confirmed that she was working with affirmation, and it always came back to I am in her manifestation work. So I thought that was a really good confirmation, and that might have been all it needed. She might not need to call on this ascended master to work with him. So that was really interesting. And so I think she was able to come to a place of peace around that and compromise, and still feel she was honoring her ancestors and not betraying them. And we did some work in the root chakra right before she had that come in, and I thought that's exactly what would come up if we were working with the root. Where are you investing your energy, right? And how has that been conditioned or informed by the ancestors? And are we breaking that pattern, or are we continuing it on? And that's where we have choice. So I thought that was really interesting, and she sort of made peace with that, right? And that can be indicated in this card. So, and religion, right, coming into play with the stained glass window of a church, the soldiers in a church. So, and yet he's by himself. He's not with a congregation. He's by himself communing, right? And that might be historical. It might be more historical than symbolic. It might be that, churches opened their doors to soldiers who were resting from battle or something like that. I'm not sure on that. And just remember, these cards and the symbols and the images have history in France and Italy. So if we research that history, we might find that to be true. I just haven't quite done that yet. So I would do want to look into that. So that's something interesting to think about. But also the symbolism is true. It's not one or the other. It's also finding that connection, that higher connection, and some maybe surrendering in peace, in order to be able to move forward in a new way. So sort of neutralizing any charged energy, resting from trying to forge ahead and make progress and gain ground, and retreating to sort of regroup and adjust what's happening internally, rest the body. And I do think that's what happened this week. I do think that's what my experience was anyway. You'll have to let me know in the comments how you experienced this card. Do you have a more in-depth understanding of it now? How did it reach you? How did it affect you and your experiences? Did you see it come up for you outside of you? What was happening internally with this card? And I was considering resting for another week, the remainder of my time here, and then moving into a new card at a future time. But I felt like things worked out to do it now, so I figured let's just do it. So that was my experience with the Four of Swords. Moving on, let's get into the Five. So looking at what Robert M. Place has to say about the Five of Swords, under wind-torn clouds and on the edge of the sea, two men turn their backs to us and look dejected. A third picks up the swords that have been left lying on the ground. He smiles in the direction of the other men. Their loss is his gain. This may be the aftermath of a battle. Whether or not the third man is a victor or an opportunist is open to interpretation. This is a card of gain, but at another's expense. So that's what Robert has to say about that card. And let's see what it might mean if this card showed up in a reading, a spread for divination. Conflict, defeat, no one wins, lose-lose situation, mind games, battle you want to withdraw from, cruelty, man thinks he won't, man thinks he won but didn't. A disdainful man looks after two retreating and dejected figures. Their two swords lie upon the ground. He carries two others on his left shoulder, and a third sword in his right hand, pointed to the earth. He is the master in possession of the field. Degradation, destruction, reversal, infamy, dishonor, loss. Alice B. Grist's intuitive meaning, a card that signifies the fight, conflict, betrayal, and war. What is being fought for? Who is winning? How have you lost? What did you lose when you won? This card can link into our cockiness and our ability to walk our talk. Are we being arrogant? Have we left others sore and wounded as a result of ambition? It is a card of success, but the main question is, at what cost? And then looking at the Biddy Tarot, that reminds me this week, I noticed some hypocrisy at work. I brought up some things that I had noticed about trends that were happening, and I was sort of reprimanded for talking negatively about customers, even though that's not what I was doing. I was just noticing trends. And it turns out if I would have been listened to, a technical error would have been found out and been able to be corrected sooner. So I felt sort of like victorious that I won. I was like, see, you reprimanded me for that, but I was detecting an issue going on. I wasn't complaining. I was acknowledging that something's going on. There's a trend here of people bringing up the same issue. And I was sort of dismissed. And I felt really like, okay, well, sure. Then I just won't bring things up anymore in that way. And so when it turned out that it was a serious problem happening, I felt a little cocky about that. I don't know if I would use the word cocky, but I felt a little like, I guess, victorious in the situation. Like, see, you should have listened. I wasn't just saying something petty. Like, I'm not someone who just wants to be gossipy at work, at least not at this job. It just doesn't come up. And so, but I sort of, it created this dissonance and broke harmony, broke rapport with one of my managers that I really enjoy working with. And it took a minute for us to sort of gain ground again and I guess not feel hard feelings, but it's so hard because we're not in person, we're just messaging. I've never even talked to him before. So it's very weird. It was really interesting, but we're getting to know each other and feel each other out. So, yeah, I'm not sure if I proved a point, but I also felt like, wow, I lost rapport with someone I enjoyed working with for a bit in order to be right. And that's not really what I was going for. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to just sort of show I'm here to make your job easier as well as mine. I'm not here to cause problems or make more work for anybody. So, but I did feel like there was a cost for winning that and for being right. So it's interesting that this flows into this in this week, right? That's how the cards flow together. So looking at the Biddy Tarot and Bridget's meaning, the Five of Swords, conflict, disagreements, competition, defeat, winning at all costs. The Five of Swords turns up when you have had a falling out, a disagreement or conflict, and you are walking away with a sense of sadness and loss. You may be upset and resentful over the heated words you said and now wish you could take back. Bad blood and a general ickiness hang over you as your relations have turned sour. Even if you won the argument or came out the apparent victor, you realize that you've lost as much as or more than your opponent. This battle has cost you trust, respect, or dignity and isolated you. As you try to pick up the pieces and set the conflict behind you, you find it's more difficult than you thought. Others have lost faith in you and are keeping their distance. You will need to decide whether your point of view is so important to you that you're willing to put your relationships in jeopardy, or if you can compromise and see eye to eye. The advice of the Five of Swords is to pick your battles. You may be tempted to fight every conflict to ensure you get your way, to prove that you are right, or defend yourself when you are feeling challenged or threatened. However, most experts agree choosing your battles wisely is a much better way of life than engaging in every disagreement. Not only will it lead to a more peaceful existence, but your interpersonal relationships are likely to come out stronger. The Five of Swords can often indicate that you are competing with others on the path to success. You see them as threats to your own happiness, and so you seek to win at any cost. If you have been engaged in a conflict and can see it taking its toll, the Five of Swords is an invitation to apologize. The longer you brood, or the more you try to prove you were right, the more challenging the relationship will become. Be ready to say you were wrong and make amends. There's no sense in trying to justify your behavior. Just let it go and move on. Look for common ground with those you've been fighting with, or seek forgiveness so you can put this behind you. The Five of Swords may also point to failure. It shows that despite your best efforts, you are likely to be beaten or come out as the loser. If you allow yourself to become disillusioned after such a loss, then you will find yourself on the path to increased ruin and torment. Accept your defeat and learn from it. Be smarter and wiser next time. So let's see what comes up this week for the Five of Swords. Thank you, Bridget, with Biddy Trow, for giving us that information. So I didn't bring my singing bowl to Vegas with me. It would have been a little bit heavy on the carry-on, you know. But I had to bring my work equipment. That was heavy enough. But so I brought a tuning fork instead, my angelic tuning fork, tuned to C. 4096 with my crystal. So we'll use that sound to integrate further, more deeply, our experience with the four, and to send out an intention to usher in experiences and a deeper understanding and meaning for the Five of Swords. All right, so you might want to close your eyes, get in touch with your breath. Perfect. Okay, coming back to the room. Okay, so looking forward to see how the Five of Swords shows up. Not wanting too much defeat or conflict or torment, so we'll see. Thank you for taking this journey with me. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you're going through in the comments. Thanks for liking the video and subscribing to the channel. That's really valuable to me. Lets me know you're on the journey with me. And if you need a session or to reach out for any reason, all my links will be in the description, okay? I'll see you in the next one. Bye, Empath.